All right, hey guys, happy Friday. Hope everyone's doing well. Wanted to do a quick video, maybe not quick, might be the longest one yet, but I've had a few people ask me, why now? Like, why after all these years um, start a YouTube channel about music? Why record an album? Um, Transparency, I'm in my late 40s, so there's not a lot of people. I don't know, maybe there are. Maybe there's more people than I realize, but starting, this kind of stuff in their late 40s. So basically, what I wanted to do today was kind of like give you a little bit of a transparent look behind the scenes for me, kind of what got us to this point. Be as vulnerable as I can about some spiritual stuff, some personal relationship, with Christ, and some of the stuff He's changed in me, some of the stuff He's still doing, and all that. So, I guess to start with that, I probably need to take you back to mid to late 20s. So I kind of came into leading worship. I want to say I was 21, the first time I ever quote unquote led worship. I grew up in church singing my whole life, playing drums. And so I knew there was something there, that I could sing and all that, but grew up in kind of a more country kind of gospel setting. And so nothing wrong with that. Love the music. It's great. But I didn't know this really existed, as far as like a church where, people were leading worship, so to speak. It kind of evolved. And this would have been, I guess, in my childhood, like growing up, graduating mid-90s, type of thing. And so, a lot of the churches were starting to kind of make that shift from we're singing hymns all the time to, words on a screen. I remember, the actual projector with the little pieces of paper, the film or whatever sitting on there and it's shooting up on the wall. So a lot of churches were starting to make that switch, but all the churches that I'd been a part of were still mostly, like singing old either hymns or stuff, and they were just kind of really moving into. And then I went to a church that was full on like, hey, it was basically doing a lot of what Hillsong was doing at the time. And so again, this would have been late 90s. And so came into a setting of there just like, wow, this is cool, man. Like they have a full band, like they're going for it. And they're writing, Hillsong, obviously writing all the music and everything. I was like, man, this is super cool. And so I jumped into a college band called Crossroads. Shout out to Crossroads. Some of you may still be around from those Crossroads days. And so, I owe a lot to that because Mark Allen and Crossroads really allowed me to get up there and learn how to lead worship. And so a lot of days it was, some of those people in the early days, we were trying stuff out on them, and they were kind of our guinea pigs, and really learning how to lead worship, how to put a set together, how to do all those things. And so anyway, all that to say is like you kind of get into it. We recorded a couple CDs there in Crossroads. And I kind of, spent probably my late 20s, early 30s really kind of pursuing music. Not like where I was on the road all the time, but just really like let's see where this can go. And so then I guess 2007, we moved out to San Diego to help start a church, and had a really cool opportunity to meet some really cool people, play some pretty cool things, recorded a little bit of music while I was there with a friend of mine, Travis Taylor. And anyway, we wound up going to Nashville and doing a little showcase, and had something on the table from a record kind of label thing. And basically me and my wife at that time sat down, this was before kids, and just kind of talked about it. It's like, is this something we want to do? Like, we've kind of really been working our way to this, and then now it's right here in front of us. Do we really want to do this? And back in those days, it was starting to change a little bit, but this would have been about 2008, 2009. The digital stuff was starting to come around, but the streaming wasn't where it is now. Obviously, there was some streaming, but most of it was illegal, and that kind of stuff. And so, you could put your stuff on a place called MySpace for you kiddos. That was like the original Facebook or whatever. But anyway, it was a little bit harder. I mean, you had to go into the studio, you had to do all the things. You had to just kind of build it, and it was just different world. And so, I guess in my head, it was always like either you do a record deal or you don't. And if you say no, then you're kind of shutting the door to music, which obviously limits God in my mind. But that's kind of where I lived. I guess my naive way of thinking, I just thought, if we say no to record deals, then we're basically saying no to music in general. And it was just like, okay, well, music's going to be kind of a side thing that we do, and you know, we'll do whatever we have to do to survive and make a living. Which is funny because, like you go through all these different jobs and all these different things you're doing, and it's like underneath all that's just always this like, why aren't you just playing music? Like, why aren't you just doing this? And it's like, well, I have to support a family. Well, I have to do this. You just make all these excuses. So anyway, a lot tied into that too. So when we were in San Diego, when we went to San Diego, let me back up just a little bit. I was never a prosperity person where I was like name it and claim it type of thing. But there was some underlying things in my life that I can look back now and see that I kind of had this idea of God of like, if I do this, then you should do this, or you have to do this. So I never really believed in like, oh, I could pray a certain way and God would absolutely heal somebody. I could do this, but it was like, okay, well, if I do certain things, God's going to do certain things. If I give a certain amount, God's going to give a certain. And so that was kind of an underlying tone in my life. And so we went to San Diego with some of that, and not really even realizing that was part of, how I operated, to be honest. And then we get out there, and your things aren't going great. Jobs are terrible. You're just fighting to survive. The music's, there's some fun stuff going on. We're playing some cool places. We're getting opportunities to do different things, recording. We're doing all that, and so it's kind of this weird mixture of like, life is. We enjoyed San Diego a lot. We really did, and all the people in San Diego who were part of our lives, man, we loved them. We really enjoyed being out there, but it was hard, and then some of it was what made it more hard, I guess, was just the spiritual aspect of really kind of living in this gray area of like, okay, God, well, I took this leap of faith, so now you should bless this. And, that's not how it worked out. And so we actually left San Diego and came back home, which was very difficult because, when you leave and you go, it's like, oh, we're going to go do this. And, God's going to X, Y, Z. And then God didn't anything. Well, I'll tell you that. God did some really cool stuff in San Diego. I think people's lives were changed, and God did what he does. But for me personally, it was like he didn't fulfill what I thought he should fulfill in San Diego. And so we come back, and me and God had a lot of, well, I'm saying me and God had a lot of talks. It was a lot of probably me just yelling at God and kind of just like, you didn't do what you're supposed to do. And so I honestly, like, you can ask my wife at some point if you want. I put the guitar away. I came back and I led worship one time. This would have been 2010. I led worship one time in 2010, and I got off the stage and I came home and I told my wife, it's like, I'm putting my guitar up and I may never pick it up again. I'm just done. There was a lot of, like I said, like a lot of spiritual stuff there, a lot of just tired, and just like I'm tired of doing this, and you hit walls, and it's just, so it was more spiritual than anything, of just like, I'm just tired of the show. I'm tired of the fluff. I'm tired of feeling like manipulating people. If I play this song a certain way, then they get kind of excited and all that kind of stuff. I was like, there's got to be more to this than this. And so I was like, I'm just putting my guitar down. And I told her, I was like, I'm putting it down for a year. I'm not going to play for a year. I'm not going to do anything for a year, and then we'll see, but I may never do this again. And I remember my wife, Teresa, telling me, she's like, oh, you'll play again. I was like, I don't know, maybe not. So 2011 rolls around. My timeline's probably terrible. You'd probably need to ask her a little bit more as far as specifics, but somewhere around 2012, 2011, 2012, we start going to Carpenter's Way. And that whole year, I guess, somewhere between 2011 and 2012, I was kind of done with religion, which I know sounds crazy, but just I was like, it all seems fake. It all seems not real. It all seems like a show. And it was like, I know, God, you're real. I know that you are, um, who you say you are, but it's like, I don't know anything about what I read in the Bible. So I'm reading about this peace, and I'm reading about grace, and I'm reading about mercy, and a God who loves, and all this stuff. And I had no idea who this God was. The God that I knew was angry, and was just ready for me to mess up. And so it kind of ran true to my time of service and ministries up to that point. It was like, God's just waiting for me to mess up. And when you do mess up, you just feel like crap, and you're like, okay, well, I get what I deserve. And I probably didn't deserve any blessings in San Diego because of, I was doing this, or I did that. And so, just a lot of spiritual crap there. And so really for about a year, I just prayed, like, God, I just want to know truth. Really, I just want to know what truth is. I don't even care what that means. If that means I'm Buddhist or Muslim or Assembly of God, Baptist, Catholic, Lutheran, you name it, Mormon, I'll go if it's true. And over that year, it was kind of crazy how he just one after another, either through like just random stuff, like I just come across a book, or I come across a podcast or something, and just these people talking about the gospel. And intellectually, I guess I kind of knew about the gospel because you hear about it growing up. So it's the gospel, the good news. But I don't know that I'd ever actually truly heard the gospel in its fullness until I was this would have been 2012 or so 35 years old, somewhere around there, 34. And I remember going down this road of it. It was just like, no, man, that don't make sense. So, it's like, I'm cool with Jesus coming, and he died, and, he's a doorway for us to get to heaven and all that. But, it's like, you gotta work, man. You gotta do all the things, or God's not going to let you in. And the gospel that I was hearing was counter to that, of a God who does everything for us, a God who saw that we were not fit from the beginning. I mean, go all the way back to Genesis. I mean, it's foretold there of, the son, the seed, crushing the serpent's head. And so that gospel that I was hearing was exciting. It was like, whoa, is this, this sounds a little too good to be true, that there's a God who loves me, and a God who yes, he died for me. I already knew that intellectually, but he also gave me stuff. And so, like, I was never really told that. And so it's like, okay, so he dies, and he dies so that my sins can be forgiven. But I was never really told that, or never understood, even reading, that it wasn't just him dying to cover my sin. He also gave me his righteousness and his holiness. And so I remember hearing all this and just being like, this is crazy, man. This is too good. Like, this is too good of news. And it, just kind of hit me. It was like, yeah, dude, it's good news. It's called good news for a reason. So anyway, over the next, I guess, that would have been 2013, I think. I started leading worship again at Carpenter's Way. Maybe it was 2012. I don't know, like I said, my timelines are terrible. And really was just kind of like, okay, God's got me here. I'll just do it. And, one of the best things that ever happened to me, the church just allowed me to get up there in my brokenness and lead, and actually not even lead, really just sing and play, and not feel like I had to manufacture something. It was just me and them singing songs together to God. And it was just so refreshing. And I remember walking off stage, one of the first or two times, and like man, like, I've never had that. I've had really cool feelings in worship, but never had the feeling of walking off being like, man, I was, nothing special happened there, but it was really cool because we're just all singing together, and I didn't feel like I had to do something. And I'm not saying any church ever really explicitly said I had to do anything. So no knock on anybody. It's a lot of just internalized, like, I have to perform, I have to do these things. And so really over the next 10 years or so I guess 2013 or so to 2023, just like really just serving and just letting God change me. And he did a lot of just accepting the gospel, accepting this truth of the good news that I brought nothing to the table for my salvation. And I need him to uphold me in this salvation, and I need him to keep me in this salvation. And so over these last 10, 12 years, it's been a whole switch of like, instead of Chad performing and keeping and doing, more to a God doing and keeping. And it's been amazing because I can just rest. And so one of the songs on the album is called Rest, and I think I'm going to call the album Rest because it's such a big deal to me, of just this idea that we can rest from the working. We can rest from the trying to earn. There's quite a bit of songs actually that talk about this. But anyway, just this idea that we have to fight to keep what God gave to us freely, instead of he gave us. He's the sustainer. He's the one who sealed us with his spirit. He's the one who is building a place for us. He is the one that's saving, and I get to come along for the ride as his kid. And had never really viewed myself as a kid necessarily. It was always like, I'm just a servant, I'm a slave, I'm just here to do his work, which, obviously there's probably a place for that some, but I never viewed myself as his kid. And so, yeah, just a lot of changes, man, with having kids, going through the adoption process with my girls. God showed me the gospel just over and over and over again of like, the only thing that matters is Christ. The only thing that matters is Jesus and the Father sending him, and knowing that we needed this salvation, that we couldn't do it ourselves. And if it was up to us to keep it, we would lose it 30 seconds into it. And so don't want to get into a, once saved, always saved, or can lose your salvation. I think that's for each of us to kind of work out on our own. But for me, just really digging into the gospel and the good news of just how complete my salvation is has been a game changer for me. And so, yeah, really brings us up to 2025, and just, I'm old, I've been doing this for 25 years now, and I haven't really recorded a full-length album since probably 2004-ish, 2020 years. So, like, why now? And I guess for me, the reason why now is just these last 6 months or so, just God's been dealing with me a lot of lip service stuff, and like, okay, but you say you trust me for eternity, but do you really trust me for tomorrow? And you say I can speak and fill the sky with stars, but you don't really think I can change that situation in your life. And so he's really been this last year, 6 months, really working on me. Like, he's not just some distant God. He's a very present God. He's right here. He's intimately involved in my life, whether I allow it or not. He's there, and he's moving, and he's doing things. So really just more of a shift of like, okay, God, instead of fighting upstream or, letting you do your thing and I'm doing my thing, like, let's just go. Let's do this together, and let's just see where it goes. And so, rambling on here, I know this is a long video, but basically that kind of brings us up to now. Why write the album now? Like, why put together an album at this point? And really it's just because I feel like, number one, for our church, we're singing these songs on Sunday mornings, and people would love to hear them but in between Sundays and Sundays. So that's honestly was one of the big ones, is like, I want our congregation, the people that are there in my life and speaking into my life and a part of my life, to be able to listen to these songs if they want to. And then secondly, just songs of hope, I think, of just trying to be real and honest as I can when I'm writing. Just having that kind of country and gospel background, a lot of my songs do tend to almost tell a story and kind of, build this story and kind of thing. So, I don't know what God's going to do with it. And to be honest, I want to say I don't care. It's not like I don't care. I'm not putting a lot of value in it, of just like, Lord, if you want to do something, cool. If you don't, and this is a fun little project that we get to do, and people in our church get to hear it, that's awesome and that's amazing. And so, but really, I think the biggest thing for me is, like I said in the first video, is like, um, I want to remind Christians, I want to remind believers that the good news is still good news for us. And we don't hear that enough as believers. We hear perform, try harder, don't do this, don't do that. And it's just, we need to be reminded that the good news is still good news. 10 seconds after you're saved, 10 years after you're saved, 50 years after you're saved, the good news is still the good news. And so hopefully this album, hopefully this journey of doing these videos and walking through, trying to be as honest as I can about where I'm at and what God's done in my life, hopefully it reminds you, it reminds me as I go back maybe and watch the videos of just how good God has been to me and just how good the good news is. And so that would be kind of my prayer for you this weekend. We're getting ready to leave Sunday right after worship for our church to head out to Georgia to go work with the guys at Tune Designer. They're awesome. I'm so excited to get to go out there and record with them and see how it all turns out, which I know it's going to be amazing because they're amazing. But yeah, really my prayer for you this weekend would be just to ask God, like, where am I missing the good news in my life as a believer? Because it's like, oh, the good news is for the sinner, man. They need it. They need this good news. They need to know. And it's like, well, you need it probably as bad as they do, because you need to be reminded that he started it, he's in the middle of it, and he's going to finish it. And you get to come along for the ride as his kid. So anyway, super long video. Sorry I went a little long, but yeah, super excited to get out there and get some recording going. And then we'll be out there, like I said, we're flying out Sunday. We'll record Monday and Tuesday. And then over the next few weeks, I'll try to get my vocals all done and background vocals, all that kind of stuff, and hopefully have something out mid-October. And so, yeah, thanks for coming along for the journey. Thanks for the comments. I mean, you guys have been supportive so far, and not that I expect anything different. You guys are awesome. But yeah, thanks for the comments. I read them all, and they mean a lot to me. I try to respond to them. May not get to everybody, but I try to respond. And yeah, just looking forward to it, and I hope you guys have a really, really great weekend.